Most tax pros leave a message.
It's Jane. I'm moving on to a TurboTax expert who beat your price. Adam Devine, tell him how I feel.
Hey, tax pro, she's been thinking twice. Best believe TurboTax will beat your price. This is a tax break.
Switch to a TurboTax Live expert and we'll beat what you paid your pro last tax season. Make the switch at TurboTax.com/beatyourprice. TurboTax full service only. Sign up by 12/20/2024 and file by 4/1/2025. Full details at TurboTax.com/beatyourprice.
This episode is brought to you by United Airlines. When you want to make the most of your vacation, book with United. They're an airline that cares about your travels as much as you do. United is transforming the flying experience with Bluetooth connectivity, screens, power at every seat, and bigger overhead bins to help fit everyone's bag. And with their app, you can skip the bag check line, get live updates, and more. Change the way you fly. Book your next trip today at united.com.
Hi, it's Dave here. This is my wife, Kathy.
Hello.
This is the Cinemile. It's the podcast where we walk home from the movies. Now, normally on this podcast, we walk home from the movies. And I was kind of up for that. But then my wife, Kathy, insisted that we watch this stupid, deeply stupid looking film on Netflix. Which, by the way, I alerted her to this movie's presence by saying, look at the trailer for this. This looks like the stupidest thing I've ever seen, and I can't believe it exists. And you said, we must watch that immediately.
Watch this movie. Like, you know how much I love dystopian young adult movies.
Oh, sure, we all loved that 15 years ago when they were in vogue.
No, but I always loved it, like, even when I was younger.
Even when you were a young adult.
Like it's my kind of genre. Now, I accept that this trailer looks mind-bogglingly stupid and it's the worst name for a movie like I've ever heard.
Why didn't you explain to the people what it is?
So basically, if you if you picture, it's like 15 years ago, The Hunger Games is coming out, a Divergent series is coming out, and then I believe this book series was in or around that time written. It's called Uglies, and basically everyone in the world before the age of 16 looks like a normal human being,
i.e. an ugly, like they're called the Uglies.
And then when you turn 16 on your 16th birthday, you're obviously living like a futuristic landscape, and you get like plastic surgery to make yourself pretty,
and those people are called the Pretties.
And so the world is divided between Uglies and Pretties. Basically, when you turn 16, you have to go and get the surgery. I mean, it does kind of work in the sense of that kind of genre, in the sense of that, like the Hunger Games, it was like once you're of a certain age you can get put into the Hunger Games, and with the Divergent series it was like kind of like a sorting hat scenario where you got put into different factions when you hit a certain age.
Yeah, it's almost like all of these things are the exact same template, and it's just this again. Oh, look, just this trailer has, maybe there's something actually going on with this mysterious corporate organisation that wants everyone to be
silly premise that I really want to see it. And by the way, everyone, the so-called uglies that we saw in the trailer were astonishingly good looking.
Yeah, of course. Because the movie wouldn't, hire not conventionally attractive people to star in a movie.
I actually think that's a good idea, because the point is, from what I can glean from the trailer, it's like, it's not about what you actually look like, it's like what you think you look like and what modifications you think you should make to your face.
You're right. This film is clearly working and operating on levels that we can barely comprehend.
We're going to go and watch it, and it looks quite short, which is good. And we'll be back to talk about it. It does look like it's trending, like loads of people watched it and stuff. So I feel like none of our listeners will have actually watched it, but they will have probably seen it on Netflix and be willing to half listen to us talk about it.
That's true. And look, and normally I am always willing to park whatever prejudices and preconceptions I have of a thing before going into it, but I just can't do that in this.
I mean,
this
called
is
Uglies.
bad. This is going to be bad.
It's called Uglies.
If this is anything but bad. Now, to be fair, I said the same thing about that Jennifer Lopez Atlas thing, and I quite enjoyed.
We had a good time at Atlas.
So that's the best scenario here. So yeah, let's go. Let's go watch Uglies. See you in a minute.
Time to wake up. Tally. Time to wake up. Good morning.
All my life, I wanted to be pretty. I thought it would change everything. I hope that's still true.
For those of you turning 16 today, you've waited your entire lives for this moment. All the flaws you have today will be gone tomorrow. With one elegant procedure, you'll be beautiful. Because everyone is accepted. No one is left behind.
Will you promise me something? No matter how pretty they make you, just don't let them erase you.
Promise.
You get the surgery, they tell you what to do, and that's it. Paris?
What are you doing here?
I was worried.
Things are just different here. You'll get it. And you're pretty.
There's something about this place. It's not what it seems. What if I told you that there's an alternative? I know this place.
Welcome to the smoke.
They have a different way of doing things.
And we will do whatever it takes to protect that.
If you want to learn how to fly, you got to learn how to fall.
Okay, hi, we're back. We have seen Uglies. If this is your first time here at the cinema, you should know that we don't spoil the movie until we turn onto spoiler street. So don't worry, we won't spoil what happens in Uglies. Yeah. But if you've seen any young adult thing ever or read any of those books, it's already been spoiled for you because it plays out exactly as one of those things do. So this is oh my God, this is a deeply terrible movie. This did not surprise me in any way. It surprised me by in fact how bad it is. It's worse than I thought.
Me. I have two thought streams on it though. One is how the film is executed and how the film's actually made, right?
Yeah.
And then the second is the deeper messages of the film.
So deep.
To get to the deeper one first, before we get back to how bad the movie is, it's a really shockingly bad movie, I will say. However, I really enjoyed it. The underlying themes are quite interesting in the sense that, like, it's obviously a pastiche on the modern world and how we all have this chase. Well, a lot of people have a chase to like tweak how they look, whether it's through like using filters online or whether it's like in reality doing like minor tweakments up to like full like very extreme plastic surgery, right? And basically the kind of premise of this film being that you're like ugly if you look like your natural state before you've modified yourself. I actually find that very interesting, and the film is, the position of some of the characters in the film is like, that's wrong and you should accept who you are. That is an underlying theme. I'm very happy to think that there might be some like young teenagers out there watching this film and kind of absorbing that message.
Sure.
So I will say to
some
the film's
value
credit,
to that,
to the film's credit, I actually admire that. Now, after that,
particularly in a world where last week on this episode we watched an incredible movie that's tackling similar subjects. Yeah. It's called The Substance, in which you highlighted that. What was your fact? Like 11 to 13-year-old girls are looking
8,
at
9, 10-year-old girls are looking at anti-aging regime,
yeah.
and in this film they actually talk about like the uglies before they become the pretties, and they're being indoctrinated about how they should look. They're
so it's a worthwhile
they talk
message
against natural aging and wrinkles and stuff, like they're with disgust, like they were disgusted by the aging process. Yeah. And as we know, aging is a privilege. So I admire all that, right, that the film's doing. To call yourself Uglies is hilarious. To call the film Uglies is hilarious. The film is so cheap looking. It's like if you took the Hunger Games and the Divergent series and probably the Maze Runner and a couple of those and you just threw them into an AI, you'd kind of get something like this spit out. At one point she picks up a bow and arrow and I was like, what in the Katniss Everdeen is this?
That's not fair.
Yeah.
That's not fair. The Hunger Games movies look so much better.
I'm not
they
saying
look
this.
Great.
No, this movie looks like
all those movies look better than this.
This movie looks like it was made 15 years ago because the special effects are so bad.
No, but my point is those movies that were made 15 years ago are leagues better than this is now.
They are leagues better
this
than
is
this,
shocking looking.
It's so bad. I actually do recommend it for a watch.
It's hideous. The movie's ugly.
I don't think we've laughed this much in a long time watching a film.
It's very stupid.
Like, it's very funny, and I would say unintentionally funny because it's actually quite po-faced. Like, I really enjoy that. Just like what it is it's a bad TV movie, and sometimes that's just what you want to watch.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
So would you describe this as so bad it's good?
Yeah, probably. That's a good way of describing it.
I did enjoy the process of laughing at it. For sure.
Like every time they said the word like ugly and pretty and like you get a glimpse into so basically like it's so ludicrous. So everyone under the age of 16 hasn't had this surgery, right? So all they want to do is become 16 and become pretty. and they all just call each other ugly, right? Like, I can't wait to meet you when you're pretty again, or when you're pretty. But I'm like, but if everyone under the age of 16 hasn't had the surgery, therefore there would be a natural ecosystem under the age of 16.
Exactly.
Where you'd be like, well, I actually do consider some people to be attractive and some not to be, but they're just like, no, we're all ugly.
We're all hideous.
And
you give each other nicknames based on your most obvious flaw. And this is the best that this movie could come up with for its two sort of primary sort of best friend characters from the beginning. One of them's called Nose. Can you guess why? And the other one's called Squint because, oh God help her most hideous characteristic is that she squints apparently, and then
which we never saw.
And then that's the main actress, and then the whole movie proceeds to she's wide-eyed. She does not squint. She is not a squinter.
Yeah, I wanted a full-on squint at that point. Like the
other guy has a totally normal nose.
Yeah.
I think they may have put on some prosthetic for him
But the point being, like,
pretty treatment.
Like anyone in the world who goes to, like, say, a caricature painter, they'll pick like one feature of you to like make bigger for the point purposes of the caricature.
Yeah.
But like in this movie, or they'll pick something that's kind of thin and make it thinner about you. This movie, like that, whatever that person would have done in that painting on the side of like a footpath in Paris, that will be your name in this movie. But I think it's kind of a fascinating idea to explore, though, and the film didn't actually spend enough time in what is the interesting stuff, which is that all of these kids, when they're like 11 or 12, their parents drop them off to live in this like dystopian city, right? And then for 4 years, you live by yourself in like a studio apartment where every night before you go to bed, it's like, what do you want to change about your appearance? What do you like? That's really interesting. Like, that's actually, like, to me, a reflection on like teenagers sitting at home and going on Instagram and filters and looking up and like hating themselves. And like we all know, like, body dysmorphia and like eating disorder content and all that stuff is really trending for young girls and algorithms. So like I actually found all that really fascinating, but the film was kind of didn't spend time in that bit. And then like their parents abandoned them, and their parents are like, to the main character Squint, they're like, see you in 4 years when you look pretty.
When you're pretty like us.
So it's like that's really
but the film's
dark.
Not, it's dark, but the film's not interested in any of that.
No.
The film sets all that up. And it's like, whoa, that's interesting, isn't
really
it? But what about hoverboards? what if we just had hoverboard sequence after hoverboard sequence?
There's a lot of hoverboarding.
And maybe she could have a hoverboard training montage, and she could, with her other friend, and they could say things like kids say, like bodacious and radical.
And her other hideously ugly friend.
This was written by a grown-up, so out of touch with the youth. And I know it's supposed to be like none of these people talked or had interactions like normal people would. It was just so like hilariously
But how would you know?
off tone.
You're not young. I asked you if you knew who Chapel Roan was.
Well,
you said
Kathy,
no.
Exactly. If I were to write a young adult dystopian thriller, this is how they would sound. They'd be like, kids like hoverboarding, right?
Oh my God, you're so ugly. Can't wait till you get your nose job. Yeah, me neither. Can't wait till you get your squint fixed.
So yeah, I think what you're doing is
I'm dreaming of what it should be.
You're highlighting incredibly important modern issues and trends that good sci-fi can take and present a black mirror back to us as a society and make us think. But this film just kind of fucking accidentally stumbled onto some of those things.
I don't know. I wouldn't.
And doesn't do anything of interest with any of them.
I'm going to give credit where possibly no credit is due here. I wonder if the books do a better job of teasing it out.
I'm going to say this right now, and
by the way, disclaimer: neither of us.
Neither of us read the books. The books could be amazing.
I'm going to read them,
and you should go out. I encourage you to try them for yourselves. But I guarantee you, they're not. They're garbage. That's that's what I suspect. The odds are they're not good.
I think the book would have dived into the more interesting stuff a bit more. That was like kind of just set up for this hoverboard adventure.
Do you think so? Or do you think that it's more likely that the books are just C-rate young adult trash that was churned out at an incredible rate in the early noughties?
You're speaking in a quite dismissive way about a genre.
I am. I'm sorry.
A genre that's very close to my heart, which is young adult books aimed at women specifically. So
I've read the Hunger Games trilogy. They're very good. I've enjoyed those.
Well, I'm going to read Uglies and I'll report back.
Please don't read Uglies.
I'm going to read the entire trilogy.
Kathy.
But yeah, so this is the hoverboard sequence. This is what I would liken it to. For anyone who's seen Hook, when Rufio and the Lost Boys are like whooping and hollering around their kind of Lost Boy place, Never Never Land.
Oh my God.
That's the vibe here. Because all the Uglies, of course, are under 16, you see. Now, they may be played by 30-year-old actors, but that's by the by. So they're supposed to be incredibly ugly children, but what they are is incredibly good-looking adults. And that's who we're watching as the Uglies. The difference is that when you see the Pretties,
they're horrendous. They're horrendous
the
looking.
Pretties are like
the Pretties.
AI.
They all look like they've been like they all have crazy cosmetic surgery and they look weird.
And they kind of glow. But I found all that stuff interesting. I actually do think we should go to spoiler street on this because.
But I also
there's a lot
encourage
to unpack.
nobody to watch this.
There's a lot
so
to unpack.
just keep listening. We'll spoil this movie for you, and then you don't have to watch it.
No, I
Yes.
I will say what I said at the beginning. It's not a good movie, but if you're interested in this kind of thing. And once we both got into it, we had a lot of fun with it.
It's an
easy
The only
watch.
way this should be consumed is with a group of friends or people you're close to that you can
have a laugh.
both have a shared snarky watch of this.
Or
thing,
you're watching
of
it and
of this utter garbage.
Or you can be watching it, but just like find like a Twitter thread somewhere where everyone's snarking on it and you can join in.
Find a beauty
Have a
filter on your phone
collaborative
and
experience.
start to fix your own personal flaws on your face.
I mean, I looked in the mirror after I watched it and I was like, I'm hideous, you know? Like, I really need to get that surgery, which looks entirely safe. So we're going to go now to spoilers.
The surgery, by the way, this is how the surgery happens. You basically, if you've seen any of the Spider-Man movies, it's like when it's the Green Goblin's origin story. You step into a chamber and all these
hot.
Dr. Octopus tentacles come out. and they're indicated, they're glowing red, which we all know in science is bad.
Like, I just don't think I'd step into it, you know. One thing we need to say though, before you step into the like Doc Octo kind of nightmare box that is going to give you the surgery. Another thing that's very interesting, but again, the film doesn't really spend too much time on, is so they go to this, like, I guess, boarding school where they all have their own apartments and their parents have abandoned them for like 4 years.
Yeah.
But it's not like the Hogwarts school of like wizardry where you have loads of fun. You basically go to lessons every day where the lessons are like, you are hideously ugly, and until you get plastic surgery, you will be a fucking troll for the rest of your life. So it's actually really dark. Like, the kids are so brainwashed, and then whenever it's someone's birthday, they're like, this seems to happen every day. Stand up whose 16th birthday it is today, and one person will stand up, and then they'll be like, today is the day your life's going to be transformed, and everyone starts clapping. Like, we only see that once, but I'm like, is that every day?
They see that every day. Every day. No, sorry, you're underselling it. The giant hologram of the villain comes up and explains to everyone the exposition of the world they live in every single day. Like, they go, as you know, when we all reach 16, we undergo a cosmetic surgery enhancement. It was like, do you have to listen to this every day? And not only that, they're forced to deliver exposition in the form of book reports.
Yeah,
when our main character stands in front of the class and says, hundreds of years ago, there were people called Rusties.
And they were ugly.
And they were so ugly. And they had fossil fuels and had phones and basically, and it's like, and I'm like, that's really interesting. It's more it's as interesting as the first time you told us in the opening VO of this movie. Why are we hearing it again? Because these kids have to listen to it every day.
Exactly.
So should you, the audience.
But it's actually really, like, one thing that they only did once properly, but I would have loved to see more of it. I really would have loved to see more. It's like, she's in bed and it's like, what do you want to change about yourself? What don't you like about yourself? And then they kind of do this montage where, like, every day her body gets scanned and it's like, you need an adjustment here, you need an adjustment here. Like, it's really sick. Like, right, we are now going to spoilers for Uglies. Not for the sequel Pretties. Yes, that is really what the next book is called. And so spoilers for Uglies now, and any other books in the series. And first you might hear a quick break.
Okay, right, so spoilers now for the movie Uglies. I die a little inside every time I say it out loud.
I feel like it could have been a really kind of subversive title, but like, because the film's so paint by numbers, it just feels so basic, you know?
Yeah. It's terrible. So let's talk about the the rebels of the, against the evil empire, the smoke.
Don't you mean the forever Uglies?
The names the names in this thing are so stupid. I couldn't stop thinking about that South Park episode where the parents could go away for one day and come back, and then it's like in the long, long ago, and all this kind of stuff. It's just like everyone has a tribal name.
Yeah, the smoke.
The Smoke. And they're called the Smoke because they set fire to everything. They're arsonists.
There's like this thing that's touched on at the start of the movie, which is like, in the olden days, people were destroying the planet, and then our scientists invented this like amazing white plant that like replenishes the earth when it's growing. So we're like, oh, how nice. And then when she meets the Smoke, the rebel Ugly Alliance, they're like, actually, this plant is, and this is barely touched on, so barely that we
all
barely
supermodels, by the way.
Yeah.
All cast, they're all supermodels.
Yeah. They're basically like, so actually those flowers are destroying the earth because they don't want anyone to live in the countryside. They want everyone to live in cities and be pretties. Okay, that's the end of that exposition. Now we're just
don't ask about
flowers.
that again, and that'll never come up
like,
again.
But wait, that was the opening scene of the movie. Was us learning about those flowers, and now it's just like, those flowers are bad.
Yeah.
And turns out, according to the Smoke, that when you undergo the beauty treatment, you basically get like lobotomized.
Yeah.
And we had kind of figured that out because when Nose turned 16 and he went for his surgery, then he like stopped being friends with Squint. And he was like, I don't really have anything to talk about you anymore because you're so ugly.
Yeah. And
He's like, when you're pretty, you'll understand. But right now, you're too ugly to fathom my life.
And then she's like, so she is basically snuck out of boarding school because she's a little rebellious teenager.
Yeah. And she's like a month off turning 16.
Yeah, that's it. And she's going, I'm just going to sneak into the city. You know, normal little teenage stuff. And it doesn't seem like the stakes are pretty high, right?
Very easy to get into the city because she actually just like scales.
So it's just like a normal teen kind of pushing their boundaries. But then, so the stakes don't seem high. But then suddenly the security are like, oh no, there's an Ugly here.
Yeah, like her facial scan is like, your face is not symmetrical. You are hideously ugly. You must leave the city.
And then she's like, oh shit, I need to jump off a skyscraper now. I'm like, what?
Yeah,
so like, are the stakes that high? You have to jump off a skyscraper?
Yeah,
and if the stakes were this high, why did you sneak into this city? If you believe this regime to be that dangerous.
She didn't believe the regime to be dangerous at all.
She thought she was going to lose her cosmetic place.
She just thought she was going to meet Nose.
Then why did she jump off a skyscraper?
So basically,
like an action
when
hero.
Nose went to get the surgery, they were like, we'll still always be best friends. You come and meet me at the bridge after 1 month. And then the second Nose got the surgery, he never texted her again. He didn't show up to the bridge. So she scaled the bridge because she can scale like the San Francisco Bridge or whatever. It's not a big deal to her. Then she goes over to the city. Everyone's so hot in the city. Turns out all you do is once you turn 16 is you just go to hot person parties.
Yeah.
Like, and I think again that's a bit of a play on the like, you know, the whole influencer house thing where all influencers just party and make videos of themselves and then like sell a false image. So basically everyone literally at the party is like, oh my god, you're so hot. No, you're so hot. No, you're so hot.
None of this happens, by the way. You don't see any of this. This is all implied.
Well, they're all taking selfies.
You spend no time in that in this so-called pretty city. None.
Like, it's quite an interesting idea. And everyone gets these huge apartments to themselves, and it's like, it kind of makes no economic sense from my perspective of like, why does everyone live alone in these huge apartments and get all this plastic surgery? And we can sense something's not right with Nose because, you know, they've been BFFs for 4 years and suddenly he's calling her ugly, you know?
Yeah. Even though he looks exactly the same, they just gave him bleached tips.
And they removed his prosthetic nose.
Yeah, okay.
They did some sort of a AI filter on the pretties, like they were kind of glowing or something. And then she goes, then she jumps off a building because her asymmetrical face was tracked. And then she comes home and then she meets a friend and they get hoverboards and then they go out to the Smoke.
And then it's just hoverboard scene after hoverboard scene.
And then she meets the so-called Uglies. And you're like, okay, I know what they're going for. Like, obviously, I've seen the Hunger Games.
And they're like, we live in humble lives and dwellings. Here, visit my parents' home. A weirdly, like, symmetrical,
opulent.
constructed grass structure that is like could not have been made by anyone.
Interesting stuff in there, though, because when she, and again, this is this interesting stuff that's just trying to come through. When she meets his parents, so he's like her love interest, David. And he's like, these are my parents. And she's like, you know your parents? He's like, my parents raised me. And she said, oh, well, my parents told me that, like, they'll get in touch with me once I've had my surgery. And she goes, but that's normal. And he goes, no, that's not normal. And that's probably the most interesting scene of the film, if you think about it.
Yeah.
But on viewing, wasn't even presented interestingly. It was like a throwaway conversation.
That's the thing. It's all on the most interesting thing you're describing about this movie are the thoughts that you were having while the movie fucking said, now have a hoverboard scene. And now there's going to be...
provoking. Maybe the film's deliberately actually basic to allow us the mental
this is what I'm saying.
to dwell on the theme.
No, the movie is stumbling into ideas accidentally and just
No, the book
wandering
had the
its
ideas.
way through the dark, as it's like what they really want is another cool action scene,
Yeah.
which is that the action in this film is staged
It's the worst action
horribly.
I've ever seen.
And then it all made sense. This all clicked into me when at the very end it said directed by McG. And I don't want to dismiss anyone's work, but he's not necessarily a high bar of quality.
It wouldn't be
and
unexpected
it kind
for
of
his
all
action
made
scenes
sense.
to be this
No,
bad.
no.
Like there's a point in the... Anyway, just to finish that bit on David and his family, what I thought was very interesting was when she meets his parents and she goes, oh wow, you look like your parents. Because everyone gets so much plastic surgery that no one looks related. They change their eye colour and everything else about them. That was all fascinating, but then I was a bit confused because before my understanding of the world was before the age of like 12 though. Don't you all live with your parents and therefore wouldn't you all look like your parents? Or maybe it's because their parents have all had so much plastic surgery anyway, whereas his parents said they kind of opted out of the surgery thing. So yeah, that was all quite interesting. But like, there's some point in this. There's 2 points in the movie where like she learns, aside from the hoverboarding, which is excruciating, she learns how to like spark to light a fire, and she learns how to shoot a bow and arrow.
She learns how. She has one bow and arrow lesson.
Yeah, and she's amazing.
And then she's amazing because one time she hit the bullseye.
And then they're like, the
And
film,
99 times
it's like
she
at some
missed.
point MacG was like, oh shit, she's never used them. So they make this action scene whereby truly for no reason, she lights a spark, blows up a house, and then shoots someone in the shoulder.
No,
and it has no bearing on anything that is happening in the scene.
She's part of the smoke, so you have to set everything on fire all the time. The smoke, the big rescue attempt at the end of the
house on fire instead of setting the fields of like poisonous
And
flowers.
the big rescue scene at the end, which was ripped entirely out of the Matrix, when they're all kidnapped by the whoever the villain is, and they're about to get the surgery, and then this helicopter flies in to the glass outside the skyscraper, turns around, but instead of a Neo with a massive heavy machine gun, it's some ridiculous supermodel who we're supposed to believe is hideous, and he just torches. He has to take a flamethrower and torches the entire floor, and nobody is injured. Like, this is your way of rescuing people with fire? That's their answer to everything is fire.
We never saw the villain again after that scene though, so she's gone off somewhere. She's like the Kate Winslet / Julianne Moore / Donald Sutherland of this.
Yes, yeah.
But basically, but that stuff though. To go back a little bit on the Uglies being actually very good looking. I found that interesting in the sense that their definition of ugly is actually you have not modified yourself.
Yeah.
Their definition of
ugly. You don't
ugly,
have to because you're a supermodel.
No, but their definition of ugly is, I think, the definition of ugly that like people, and again especially young vulnerable people, and always has been the case. It's not just the internet, you know, we watch movies, we read, like, think back to the magazines I read in the noughties, like they were so toxic. Like all they did was tell girls to like, and women to like lose weight and shame them, and even all the men's fitness stuff where like everyone's just increasingly muscular and it's really really unrealistic way for like a man or a boy to think about their body. This film is positing that like they are ugly purely because they haven't modified themselves, and that's actually very interesting. Because there's that sense now with like any celebrity you look at, like any celebrity I'm talking about, like at the very minimum, they don't even have their own teeth anymore.
Kathy,
it's quite alarming to look at, like, you know, when you watch movies in the 80s and you see someone, I'm not going to name any actors, they have normal human teeth.
And it looks odd.
And you see them now and you're like, what's different about them? Oh yeah, they've got an entire new set of teeth.
So come here, Kathy, I agree with every word you're saying except the 4 words. This film is positive. This film isn't positing anything. You're doing more loops than Squint on her hoverboard to try and defend this film and apply some meaning to it.
This film's really bad, like. And then right at the end, it kind of got good, where like very quick succession, because this movie is actually too short for what they were trying to do, and I normally love a short movie, but like they squeezed too much into a short duration here. right towards the end, she's basically responsible for David's dad's death. Her best buddy knows is, as I've christened him, the P1000.
Very good.
Because he's a pretty, and he's basically
That was
Terminator.
the funniest thing that happened in this movie.
So the P1000 has gotten 2 modifications. So he's got like extra like vascular muscles.
Yeah,
and,
because
like,
there's a monitor. There's a monitor when he undergoes this treatment. This second one, it cuts to this monitor outside the Dr. Octopus tentacle.
Yeah, it's the super soldier
chamber he
serum.
enters in. Yeah, and there's like 4 like levels, and one is like musculature.
Yeah.
One is like speed, and they're set. And currently he's at like a 1 out of 5. You know.
Yeah, he's like
and then it's like the levels just start to move up all of a sudden.
He's
It's
somewhere
just
between
so
the
stupid.
Winter Soldier and I think he's probably more like the Winter Soldier actually, in the sense that he was once human and once had friends. And but the P1000 is obviously a much better name for him. But like when he sees her, she's like, "It knows it's me, Squint," and he's like, "Nose must kill."
Can't move, too pretty.
You are so ugly. I can't even look at you. And then I actually like when her best mate, the one who brought her into the Rebel Alliance, her best mate
Shay.
gets kind of like kidnapped.
Yeah, Shay.
And gets turned into a pretty, and that scene was actually very disturbing. Like the nose stuff wasn't disturbing because we never even knew him, and it was just so absurd that he was like this kind of Winter Soldier. But with her, she was just like, "Oh my god, I'm so pretty! I feel so amazing!" And she looked completely different, whatever they'd done to the actress. And again, the actress being gorgeous actually before and freaky after. But the right at the end, basically, they kind of realised like that David's parents are like developing this super serum to like reverse the pretty, whatever the hell that is, and the pretty surgery. And then so then Squint is like, "I volunteer as tribute."
No, you should explain firstly for anyone who hasn't seen the movie, which I presume is everyone who's listening, and I hope that's the case.
our friend
that
Shay,
they refuse. They have the serum that will undo the prettifying
of Shay, her best mate.
of Shay, but they will not use it on her
Shay
without
is not
her consent
consenting,
because she's like, "No, I love him pretty."
Shay's
It's
like,
awesome.
"Fuck
It's
off,
great."
you're all ugly." She literally is like, "You're a bunch of hideous losers.
You guys live in the woods.
And
I don't want to do
she's
that.
like, "You're disgusting. I don't want to be like you." So they're like, she's not consenting.
Which I thought was great. I thought it was like
really
very interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, you're not going to force this procedure on someone even though you know it's the right thing to do.
And also, you know that it's what she would have wanted, but now you're accepting because consent can be revoked at any time.
Exactly.
Again, I wish someone had stuck that lesson in. They didn't say consent can be revoked at any
But
time.
go on, explain what
But we know it
our
can be.
hero Squint says then.
And then Squint's like, "Well, I volunteer as tribute," though she doesn't quite say those words.
Yeah,
And she's
I'm
like,
surprised she didn't.
"So I'm going to become pretty. And then I'm telling you right now, you have my permission."
Yeah.
And it's like, but isn't that going to be the exact same?
Exactly. That's the problem. Your consent now doesn't mean your consent later.
And then-
When you get lobotomized. Why do you think that you are smarter than a lobotomy?
But they have said that like some people are smarter than the lobotomy. And sadly for Shay,
No,
who's
but-
the one who brought her into all this, Shay's been cast aside as not being smart enough. Nose was smart enough. That's why Nose got the P1000 treatment, because the first time he was like, "Do you know what? I know she's hideously ugly, but like I feel a bit of affection towards her." And they were like,
Yeah.
"Absolutely not."
How dare you?
Yeah, so
Get
that's
into the
when
chamber.
he got the super serum.
We're upping your speed and strength levels.
And then when Squint, anyway, and David, her love interest, whose father's murder she caused, when she's like, David's like, "But how will we know that like you consent then and it's okay? How will we know you're still you?" And she's like, "I'll leave you a sign."
I'll leave you a sign, but doesn't tell them what
Yeah.
sign. Doesn't make any plans. The planning in this film is hilarious.
Yeah.
In the very beginning, she's like to Nose, "I'll meet you in 1 month in the bridge."
Yeah, but I said
What
to you-
time?
No, because I said
what-
to you, they both always escape out of their apartments and meet at the same time at the bridge, so they'll know the time. They didn't need to tell us that.
All right, fine. Yeah, but how about? Yeah, I'll show you it. Don't worry. I'm going to go get a lobotomy, and then you can kidnap me and try this experimental drug on me. How will we know that you're consenting? I'll give you
I'll
a
leave
sign.
you a sign. And then what I actually thought
What's
the
the
ending.
sign? What are you planning?
The ending was so good. I thought, like, this is where I'm like, I'd love to watch a second movie, but I don't think it's going to get made. And if it does, it will come out in like 3 years' time, and I won't remember any of this. But if the second movie was available right now, I'd be watching it.
This movie's a hit.
It
It's the
ends-
#1 movie on
Oh, was it?
Netflix.
So it ends, and she's like, quote unquote, pretty. She's got that AI weird glow. She looks like an Instagram filter. She changed her hair color to golden, like she always said she wanted. Her eyes are now golden. And she's like, and it ends on that. And that's actually quite dark. And so then Dave told me, because Dave went and did some research on the books, that the next book is called
Pretties.
Pretties.
And I can tell you, it's clear what's going to happen. So firstly, Nose is not dead. They make him seem like he's dead. He's not. He will be hideously disfigured, i.e. he'll have two scars, small scars on his face from his fall. And then
tell like 1,000 stories.
And then
though.
he falls in, so the second movie is about him. He falls in with the...
Nose isn't our central character though.
No, but that's
Squint
what's
is.
going to happen. I'm telling you right now. This is my guess. You can see it all. Then he's going to fall in with the smoke, and then it's all about them trying to get her out, and he'll be our protagonist with the smoke.
But then
so they can deprogram her and look for the sign.
But how
that she didn't.
how does it come into play though that what happened is that he actually murdered David's dad though? I don't know that David can get
that's
past
very
that.
interesting tension for the ... love triangle, because you have to have a love
That's
triangle.
true. I don't know. And by the way,
Which one will Squint choose?
I was raging.
Nose or David?
I was raging when we met David. Like, he's perfectly attractive, nice person, but like, there was because they gave them no time to have any actual scenes together. There was no chemistry. Like, I wanted a Katniss Everdeen against Liam Hemsworth versus Peeta, whatever his name was. I can't remember the actor's name, but you know the way there was a legitimate love triangle in the Hunger Games.
Yeah.
Whatever they're trying to do romantically in this film, it doesn't work. Like when her and David kiss, it could be a brother and sister.
Nothing
kissing.
works.
Like,
Nothing works in this film.
And then,
nothing.
So this is what I think is going to happen. So I believe it's a trilogy because A, I just would put €1,000,000 on it. It's a trilogy, and B, you told me, but I had already guessed because if it's a YA
it's a trilogy.
series, it has to be a trilogy. But I think what will happen is they'll possibly make a second movie, but they'll merge the second and third book together.
Yeah.
Because they'll know, of course, they can't get 3 films out of this.
Yeah, because this genre died 10 years ago when the Divergent series couldn't get a cinematic release for its third
wild.
one.
I never that was always wild to me, the Divergent thing, because I had read the Divergent books and really liked them. The adaptation was like fine, but I think Shailene Woodley is a truly wooden, terrible lead. Like, I just never understood how she was the lead in anything. Like, she actually ruined those films. And I speak harshly of her because of her absolute shenanigans and carry on during the pandemic about vaccines. But she's a terrible lead. Like, she was really bad in Big Little Lies as well. And anyway, but that was such an interesting world, the Divergent world. I remember really enjoying it. And then the third one, they were like, oh, that's going straight to VOD. But like, before VOD movie releases was like really a thing, so they completely buried it. But yeah, this one though, the genre might be dead in the sense that what happened in Hollywood, what always happens is like there was really big success with the Hunger Games, and then they obviously, like years ago, of course there's been other ones like Battle Royale and all that, but there was a resurgence. They made too many at once and everyone got sick of them. Like back in the day, there was all these other things that like people were saying that the Hunger Games was very derivative of.
Oh, sorry, I see, yes.
But then there was a resurgence of this YA thing. There was a load of movies together. Everyone got sick of them. But now, like, that's a long time ago, and you're talking about a completely new audience. So I wouldn't at all say the genre
Don't tell me
said.
this is going to kick off
No,
another...
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying I wouldn't assume the genre said, and I wouldn't assume they're not going to make a second movie.
Okay.
But I just think already 3 movies is too much because the gap between movies is so big. Unless you do, like, you shoot them both together, which they might
and your
do.
actors are already 37.
But the thing
so
is,
you're
it doesn't
gonna have
matter
40-year-olds
though,
playing
because in the
18-year-olds.
next movie they're all AI. So you can kind of get away with the aging
Can we
thing.
please stop talking
Anyway,
about
yeah,
this? I want to go home.
I could talk about Uglies
I hate this
all
so much.
day. I could write a master's dissertation on this. I'm going to go and read all 3 books. Nothing to see here. If and when the second movie comes out, I'll be so educated on everything, and I'll be able to do a direct comparative between the books and the movie.
Do you know what I'm really enjoying is that
What?
I'd say some people turned on our podcast this week, opened up their podcast thinking, do you know what, the cinema, I'd love to hear what they think of Megalopolis, because that's in the cinemas right now and they always go to the cinema. And we're like, no way, baby.
No.
It's Uglies o'clock.
Yeah, it is Uglies o'clock. And like, I just can't wait to get my surgery when I turn 40. Dave's just turned 40 and he's been planning his for the last hour.
And as you
What are
know,
changing?
in our world, when you hit 40, you undergo a cosmetic procedure.
What are you getting done?
What am I
Golden
getting
eyes?
done? Well, as you know, my nickname, the affectionate nickname you have for me is Ears. Because of my hideous ears.
I've been wondering when you tell our listeners about this deformity of yours. I mean, I think your face is asymmetrical, and look, I've been saying it for years that you need to fix it, and you definitely need a new set of teeth. Anyway, let us know what you thought
They
of
call me
Uglies.
Choppers. Because
Let us know what you thought of Uglies. Actually, I'd love to hear from someone if you'd like a young kind of a tween or a teen who watched it and like what they thought of it, and if you had any interesting conversations with them around the themes, I'd love to hear that, because we've loads of our listeners who've got teenage kids. And if you've read the book Pretties, please message me.
Pretty please.
We will do a book club episode over on our Patreon. If enough people have read the book Pretties. Right, thanks Dave. Thanks for humouring me.
If you want to talk to us, of course, you can email us thecinemile@gmail.com or at thecinemile on Instagram, Letterboxd, TikTok, YouTube. Go chat to us there. And look, thanks for putting up with this.
And if you want to listen to
Hope
a
none
review
of you watched it.
you want to listen to a review of Megalopolis, we won't be reviewing it.
No, we're not watching Megalopolis.
I would rather watch
It looks
Pretties
really bad.
10 times over than sit through. My friend went to Megalopolis the other night and said half the film walked out.
I really don't think I can watch Megalopolis. I don't
think
want
when
to.
it comes out on demand, we might watch it in bite-sized chunks.
yeah, as Francis Ford Coppola intended.
We should do weekly episodes where we just review 10 minutes of Megalopolis at a time, and it will take us 10 years to finish it.
All right.
Goodbye.
Bye.
All my life, I wanted to be pretty. I thought it would change everything.